What's up, guys? Kevin Cage here with another crypto update. Hope everybody's doing all right out there. It's been a while since my last big video going over some price charts. We're going to dive into a bunch in this one. We're going to look at the crypto market cycles. We'll also look at a list of altcoins at their cycle lows. So I'll share my bullish concerns and my bearish concerns here. And remember that absolutely anything is possible in this wild market, whether it's a potential black swan or even a market catalyst. So we're all speculating here, each with their own biases. So please take everything with a giant grain of salt. And remember that this is never financial advice. I'm just sharing what I'm looking at on the big picture and exactly why I believe that. The outcome of this, getting another cycle long term, it's completely binary. We either get it or we don't. So please let me know your thoughts down below, whether you might agree with something or completely disagree with something and why. I'm always trying to be in a constant state of learning, and let me tell you, I keep learning. So I'll be going through a bunch of different charts. I'll trim these clips together after recording all of this. I hope you guys enjoy it, and let's kick it off. Feel free to throw this on 2x playback speed. I feel like I speak fast enough, but whatever works. First up, looking at the Bitcoin monthly price chart and looking at the previous 3 crypto cycles. So you guys already know that I believe the crypto asset class reaches new all-time highs, so let's look at this and see if this would make sense. So big picture, we know that the monthly RSI has drawn multiple cups, all reaching 90 plus for the last 3 cycles. Even this last cycle, where we had bearish divergence, we still reached over 90. So we had 1 cycle, 2 cycle, and 3 cycle. Sometimes the RSI will align with the peak of the price, but the last cycle it actually didn't. The all-time high for Bitcoin right there, around 69K, we had bearish divergence where the RSI was lower. And specifically looking at the market cycles with this orange moving average, this is the 8-month exponential moving average, we can see the importance of holding monthly candle bodies above this level. Yes, we can wick below like we have previously, but the importance of doing this after the Bitcoin having these purple circles, and as we get closer or after elections, maintaining above this trend. Even seeing wicks below, but monthly candle bodies holding above that level. So at least looking at the Bitcoin price chart on the monthly time frame for the past 10 plus years, we can see the importance of holding monthly candle bodies above the 8-month EMA. So we can see where we're at today, and we are basically right on top of that level. So if we can maintain monthly candle bodies by the end of this month above the 8-month EMA, it looks like the trend is still okay. However, if we close the monthly candle body below or well below the 8-month EMA, it looks like the trend is getting weaker. Now looking back at the cycles, I marked the previous cycle top when we got that first major move, that first monthly candle for each of these cycles. In 2013, we had in 2017 where we poked into an all-time price and took around 2 months before we got that first major move. Notice, holding above the 8-month EMA as well as this trend line. So we got the first major move, reached a peak, another bear market. We did more of a retracement during 2019 into March 2020, but maintained back above this internal trend line along with the 8-month EMA, as you can see, after a halving. So we wicked up into an all-time price, and then about 2 weeks later, we got that first major move, that first monthly candle. So looking at this cycle, comparing the previous 2 cycles, we've yet to see that first monthly candle or that first major move. So when looking at this cycle and comparing it to the 2 previous cycles, there are some similarities and there are some differences. We can see that we are still in an uptrend on the monthly and the weekly time frame. However, unlike the previous cycles, as we got to an all-time high price, this took 2 months and this took 2 weeks. We haven't done this in 2 months. We've actually been drawing this for like 5 months or over 150 days. So the way I see the Bitcoin price chart is we can see that Bitcoin has been consolidating at or near our previous cycle top. Really just bouncing between that like 49K level up to the previous all-time high. We've shared looking at the length of the longest cycle from the cycle peak of the price until we got that first major move. This is 1,277 days. If we did the same thing from the peak of the price for 69K up until 1,277 days, that takes us to May of 2025. And this is just something I'm considering for expectations if it were to be as long as the longest cycle from 2013 up until 2017. Now, instead of using the peak of the price, let's measure from the peak of the RSI or the monthly momentum, which happens to be the same length because these 2 prices align with that previous cycle. So it's still 1,277 days. But we're going to take that and apply it to the peak of the RSI, which happened before the all-time high price. So looking at the peak of the RSI right there, we're going to go right up to that, and then we're going to draw 1,277 days. So that basically takes us around September 1st, maybe even just the end of August. So I just wanted to share that is why I have this trend line right there. It also aligns exactly with the length of the longest cycle. And if we are to see a major move that has comparable length of the longest cycle, that's what I expect to see. A move anytime between now and May. And that's just referring to the first major move, that first monthly candle like the previous cycles. And then we can actually confirm that another cycle's here. And historically, I saw Crypto Caesar make a really good tweet about this that we covered in a video before. When Bitcoin gets that first major move, or at least surpasses its previous cycle top, I mean, it's running during the previous cycles anywhere from like 200 to 300 days. Last cycle was really long because we had bearish divergence, but even 2017 was well over 200 days, up until the cycle top. So if Bitcoin got its first major move at 80K or over $100,000 past the previous cycle top, I would expect for Bitcoin to be trending upwards and really ranging above the previous cycle top for 200 to 300 days after that point. And I'm also looking at Bitcoin dominance in tandem with the Bitcoin price chart because in 2017, when Bitcoin dominance crashed here on the left side, as well as Q1 2021, that resulted in the historical alt season, where a variety of assets did sizable retracements, some absolutely blasted. And looking at this, Bitcoin dominance has yet to crash, it's yet to find its cycle top, and we can see the monthly RSI or momentum is the highest it's ever been in history, which is super interesting. So at least in these previous two cycles, when Bitcoin dominance crashed, we can see my cursor and we can see where the Bitcoin price chart was in March of 2017. It was drawing major moves and all-time highs. So we can see Bitcoin was going up and creating higher highs as Bitcoin dominance was coming down. We can do the same thing right here during this crash around the end of December and January. We can see right there, Bitcoin is drawing major moves and all-time highs, so higher highs. So that's my rationale for Bitcoin drawing major moves and all-time highs, aligning with Bitcoin dominance finding its top and crashing, whether it happens at the same time or one of them happens before the other. And if you're bearish and you're entertaining Bitcoin actually going to cycle lows, I would still expect to see some type of move from Bitcoin dominance in the future when it crashes for alts to get some volume. So here we have Bitcoin dominance on the left and the total crypto market cap on the right, both with the 8-month EMA, and there are a bunch of scenarios running through my mind. Is Bitcoin dominance actually close to its top, or is it going to run even higher because the momentum is at a high? If it did run to 70 or cross it, Bitcoin dominance could go a lot higher. Bitcoin could actually steal the show for a while, and then when that crash happens, the alts get their time. Or is Bitcoin dominance actually already close to its cycle top because even crashing to these lows, 20-30%, taking out some of those gaps, that is plenty of volume for alts. And I just want to emphasize, looking at the size of the crypto market cap, back then when it crashed for Bitcoin dominance, 60%, 45%, the money in the crypto asset class was a lot smaller. So at this time, when it crashed, the crypto market cap was right around here. We can see like $20 billion, so absolutely nothing. So the crypto market cap as a whole was $20 billion, the altcoin market was even smaller. Looking at the previous cycle around January 2021, when we finally got that month of the crash, looking at the size of the crypto asset class, it was 800 billion, so substantially larger than 20 billion in the previous cycle. But what's important to note is that the total market cap today is bigger than that at 2 trillion. So because the market cap is so much larger and there's more value in the crypto asset class than previous cycles, even a 20 or 30% drop for Bitcoin dominance would be substantially more money for alts. So there's a lot more value in this space, but you could also make the argument that the market is very saturated with a bunch of different assets as well. Just for comparison, looking at total 2, so this is excluding Bitcoin, so the entire altcoin market, stablecoins, Ethereum, every single asset. Aligning this when Bitcoin dominance crashed, look at the size of the market. We're talking almost $800 million. And then looking at the next cycle when Bitcoin dominance crashed, we can see over $200 billion. Just looking at the growth of this asset class between those two periods is absolutely insane. And today we are still sitting above that at $879 billion. Another thing I'd like to see if we are going to get another cycle for the Bitcoin price chart in the crypto asset class is for the VVol to get back over 50 to even 100%. So this is Bitcoin's historical volatility index. During the previous two cycles, we were between 50 to even 100 plus. We can see that we have been below 50 for over 2 years, since August of 2022. We can see the monthly RSI is approaching that 50 line we don't want to reject. For the bullish case, I want to see Bitcoin's volatility increase, so there's a lot more excitement, a lot more volume rotating between different assets. So BVol has definitely increased from like 14 to over 26 now, and we're seeing some bigger swings at least over the past few weeks. But when BVol is low, it signifies less volatility for Bitcoin. So sometimes you're seeing 1 or 2% moves in a single day. And when we were in previous cycles, we were seeing a higher BVol and much bigger swings for Bitcoin. We were seeing 10% candles in a single day. So looking at previous cycles, I mean, it was bigger than 2 or 3% moves. We had multiple days where it was, 10, 13, 14%, just a lot more volatility for Bitcoin and excitement. Even here, roughly 20%. If I actually just fix that wick from the daily up until the peak, we can see, I mean, that was 20% plus in a single day. So when Bitcoin moves 5, 10, 20% in a single day, those are the times where we can see potential for alts to do those 50% moves or 20% moves. So just looking at DAG as an example, we can see this wick up until the peak of that wick, we can see almost like 40%. And then there are some scenarios where we just had crazy liquidity wicks for different assets. So look at this wick for DAG right there up until the peak, and we're talking almost 200%. So that's just an example looking at previous alt seasons where alts really performed and there was a lot more volatility, and that's what I want to see because I am getting very bored of assets sitting at lows, not really doing much, in this environment where it's been relatively illiquid since Bitcoin hit its all-time price in March. So big picture, I want BVOL to go up and climb to previous highs and not just be ranging at these lows. Okay, a few more charts, then we're going to dive into altcoins that are sitting at their cycle lows. So we have the Bitcoin price chart on the daily time frame, stuck in this range for over 150 days, up, down, up, down. You can also argue it's in a descending channel, which is bearish, but you can also drag these trend lines and then make it look like a falling wedge, which is bullish. At least a falling wedge in an uptrend. So we basically need the break structure, make a decision so we can get more insight whether we go down or up. So this is the total crypto asset class, its market cap. We have this ascending channel, internal trend lines. We can see this has been obeyed since 2015, multiple points of contact, even March 2020. So since then, we fell below this trend line. We actually hit resistance, I believe, in April of 2023, and then we hit resistance again with Bitcoin's all-time high in March of 2024. So us bulls are wanting to see the total crypto asset class reclaim this trend line and get back into this channel, into all-time highs. We just don't know how long it takes, and we definitely don't want to see the crypto asset class take a long time or even backtest previous highs. Here's the same look on the monthly time frame, just pointing out the monthly RSI or momentum. These all reached 90 plus for the past 2 cycles, and this was in tandem with Bitcoin drawing major moves and all-time highs, which we haven't seen. We can see right here, since the all-time high we crashed, this monthly candle bodies, or these 2 monthly candle bodies, actually closed right on the previous all-time high, so this was a perfect backtest. And same thing, looking at the Fibonacci retracements or the extension levels for last cycle from high to cycle low, we actually reached a 4.236 Fibonacci extension, as you can see right across that line. Since then, we crashed, drawing another Fibonacci retracement from the high to the cycle low, looking at other golden extensions in tandem with this trend line. So my bias, right or wrong, is I believe the crypto asset class reaches all-time highs, considering Ripple and Medico's prediction of 10 trillion by 2030. We have Raoul highlighting the liquidity cycles and believing that a cycle top could be 10 to 12 trillion. That would be a dream come true after these past few years. We know Brad Garlinghouse predicted for 2024 to reach 5 trillion. That's also interesting because it's at this Fibonacci extension right here at the 2 extension, and that is basically the size of the global cloud market today. I believe that the crypto asset class should be valued higher than the cloud market. Cloud market is more about just overall cost savings, whereas DLT and blockchain, if we can actually get regulatory clarity globally, doesn't just offer cost savings, it offers revenue generation. So looking at the retracements we got over the 786, the concern is how long will it take? Are we going to hang below these retracements for a while? Or are we going to fall lower and fill some imbalances first? Because when I see all-time highs, I'm basically expecting any of these extensions. And even looking at the total crypto market cap, just looking for any potential cup and handle patterns, you could do the same thing for Bitcoin, and that measured move is really, really high. So I have a mindset where it's possible, but I'll believe it when I see it. And if you consider this cup and handle pattern to even be valid, that basically measured move would take us over 8 trillion. And again, I'm not calling for an $8 trillion crypto market cap anytime soon. I'm just showing you that this is a technical target if this cup and handle pattern actually played out. All right, let's look at some bearish concerns for the total market cap of the crypto asset class. In previous videos, we looked at Bitcoin potentially closing below the 8-month EMA, losing strength in its trend and coming down to that next trend line at 45K. So those would be the next important levels. If we break that, we look lower. And looking here at the total crypto market cap, we can see on the monthly time frame some large fair value gaps. These are BISI's, B-I-S-I. I believe it is buy side imbalance, sell side inefficiency. I always mix up the words. So basically, we are in an uptrend. These are actual imbalances. They can, in theory, fill, but they don't always fill. So this is something I'm considering. Especially if monthly RSI just stays pointing down and weekly RSI doesn't get a sharp uptrend. So if it does stay low, I'm open to this. And even moving down to the weekly time frame, these are still the monthly fair value gaps, but you can see different weekly fair value gaps as well. So these are around the 236 and just below. And remember that fair value gaps, looking at imbalances above or below, it acts like magnets for liquidity and price action. That is just one single thing. You want to look for multiple levels of confluence, so it doesn't guarantee anything. Because we even have open fair value gaps back here that have never been tested. You have some for Ethereum that I believe are under $300. I'll have to look at it. So here's Ethereum on the weekly time frame, just as an example of open weekly fair value gaps. You can find a bunch of open imbalances down below under $300, and it doesn't mean that Ethereum is going to retest that. Some of these fair value gaps or imbalances are just left unfilled. You can find imbalances on any price charts, especially those that went parabolic like Bitcoin and Ethereum at really low levels. So I consider them, but I only consider them when we're actually near that for price reaction, like previous fair value gaps. And unless you believe the crypto asset class is going to zero, or there's a black swan or a solar flare, I don't really entertain them until we're a lot closer to those price levels. And me personally, I believe that Ethereum reaches an all-time price in the future, even if it takes a while. So that was just a little rant on fair value gaps, buy side, and sell side imbalances. Every single one of these things, whether you're looking at RSI, trend lines, channels, different price targets with fib extensions, all of this is just another confluence, and you want to overlay those. So looking at the Bitcoin price chart on the weekly time frame, we're just still in this range. We have this trend line down below around that 45, 46K level. I would like to see us hold above that and maintain the uptrend and not actually do a back test on previous highs. I think the market overall has just been boring. There's not really any change in market structure. Bitcoin has been coming down. Bitcoin dominance has been climbing. And when that happens, altcoins go down. So really just seeing how long Bitcoin is going to be in this range of chopping up, down, I'd be looking at these extensions below and these extensions above. Okay, we're going to dive into like 10 plus different alts in this video now, specifically focusing on alts that have a structure at their cycle lows or at all-time lows. So in previous videos, we've talked about other assets that have been better performers over the past year at higher retracements, and a lot of them have still pulled back. So in this one, we're just focusing on assets that are at cycle lows or all-time lows. And I've also talked about price action for different assets, at least looking at past cycles, and I get it that cyclical analysis might seem silly, but that's just something I do on the weekly and monthly time frame for personal expectations. The future can always be different, but I see a lot of rhymes. Okay, I also want to emphasize that when we go through these price charts, I'm not calling for a bottom for any of these assets. It is possible that we have formed bottoming structures for some like ZCASH, as you can see, but in this environment where the Bitcoin price chart is coming down and Bitcoin dominance is going up, as the momentum is at a high, in that environment, alts usually go low. But the bottoming structures that we would be looking for is some type of spring like we had for ZCASH, so we can see actually creating another cycle low, at least for this cycle, and it dropped, let me move the cursor, about like 16, 17%. It came back up, reclaimed this yellow moving average. This is the 50-week moving average. There are a variety of assets below their 50-week. That's important to reclaim. And as we can see, just zooming in, it got above, wick is a back test, and then climbed higher. So this structure for ZCASH does remind me of Chainlink for an example. So we can see in the structure, let me remove these retracements. We can see it was in accumulation and it did a type of spring. So we can see these were the previous lows, almost like a double bottom. And we did spring just below that before recovering. And Link is an asset that has retraced better than other assets. We can see from the high to the low, it did get up almost to the 382 Fibonacci retracement, but it's pulled back thus far. Same thing with the rest of the market, AVAX, other assets that have performed fairly well last year. So we have audio, this is the low, we can see we wicked about 18% below. Yet to reclaim its 50-week moving average like ZCASH, the weekly RSI is in a similar position, it has that potential. We actually need to see a variety of assets get this climb and close back above their 50-week moving average. Here's Kava at a cycle low, basically backtesting its previous all-time low price, so another asset that is dumped substantially below its cycle low, at least its 2023 low. So we can see going down over 50%. We also have Cadena on the right. So KDA, we know, was a top performer, really popular last cycle. This thing did like almost a 90x return, as you can see, from the low to the all-time high, and then crashed massively this bear. So Cadena is not at an all-time low price down here, but for this cycle specifically, it is at a cycle low, and it did wick just below that level. Let me add the 50-week moving average for reference. We can see that right there. We have Curve and Casper both at all-time low prices. So we've talked about Casper. If this is going to be a spring in accumulation, how deep is the spring? Because in classic accumulation schematics or these structures, the spring usually isn't that deep and it doesn't last that long. So if it lasts longer, it would look more like redistribution. So for Casper specifically, we know that Prove AI launched their first partner, Grayscale AI. They're actually deploying, I believe, AI training datasets of 300,000 deployments, and they're over 100,000 deployments thus far. So it's good to see some activity with this first enterprise-grade application. But with the recent hacks that we've discussed, even the testnet issue that we'll go over in another video, it's just not good timing with the price chart already at an all-time low. We can see Curve, however, has curled up a little bit. It's having a good day today, up over 24%. The RSI is coming up. And just think about Curve. It's absolutely dumped. And when we look at DeFi TBL, let me find the tab. I have way too many open. Right here on DeFi Llama. So compared to the highs, even back here, we were like over $175 billion. We were still down substantially in total value locked in the world of DeFi. And at this point, the market cap is so small for so many assets. So of course, a little volume can actually get them to retrace because they're already at an all-time low. But ideally, for a lot of assets that are DEXs or lending platforms, we want to see TVL get back up there. We want to see Ethereum climb and just the overall DeFi ecosystem flourish again. Because in that environment, lending, borrowing, DEXs, a lot of them can perform really well. So I already said in classic accumulation schematics, the spring usually doesn't last that long. It's usually just a quick, sharp, brief move and then a recovery afterwards. So if we don't get the actual sharp recovery for Casper, it's looking like we could go potentially to like the S3 level or even lower. So that is my concern because in accumulation, we have matched it so far. The secondary test in phase B doesn't have to always be below the selling climax. We can see it was above here, but if this doesn't recover, it's looking more like redistribution. So we just need to see volume return to these assets, ideally Bitcoin, Ethereum, all of them performing again for them to get the recovery and start closing above their 50-week moving average. So right now, we don't know how low some of these assets are going to go. It's good that Curve's weekly RSI is curled up, whereas Casper is still in oversold where the momentum is high. We have Energy Web token, also RSI and free fall, technically creating a spring or a cycle low right there. We also have IOTA in synthetics or SNX, so technically these were around last cycle. We can see their March 2020, how big of a crash, if you want to consider that a spring. I know in classical accumulation schematics, it's usually not that deep, but this is referring to the crypto asset class, crazy things happen. And same thing for SNX, like previously we've had a lot of deep corrections. We have Engine creating a new cycle low, not an all-time low price, but you can see at least taking out this cycle and dropping another 40% wick to wick. Same thing with Sand on the right, so also dropping over 20% below the cycle low, not necessarily its all-time low. We have Kilt in the Polkadot Kusama ecosystem. We have Phantasma or Sol right there at a cycle low, technically just a brief wick. We have Chili's, Zilliqa, and a bunch more, but we can see that RSI. So for that potential for any of these assets, ideally we'd love to see any of them perform how ZCASH did. Find the bottom, RSI curl up, crossing the 50 line. So a strong cross past the 50 line, we're going to see if we actually make or break here for the weekly RSI for 70. If it broke over 70, Zcash can go higher, but it's also a common rejection point. We also have Ape right here sitting at an all-time low price, and we have Tezos right here sitting, or at least wicking to an all-time low price. So the question I have here for virtually every single asset in this market, of course, depending on how Bitcoin performs, is are we in accumulation where we recover, or because we're in a downtrend, we're actually in redistribution? So some assets could be in accumulation where they're finding their bottom. Sometimes they spring, sometimes they don't, and the spring can be in a different spot. And accumulation usually takes place after a prolonged period of a downtrend, which we've already experienced. So if they're in accumulation on the big picture, just like Chainlink was in accumulation a while back, we saw that spring, and then we saw it lead to a much bigger recovery on the weekly chart, Zcash could be in a similar position. Are other assets at their lows or creating lows going to find their bottom and draw similarly? We're looking at other assets, assuming that we are already in distribution. Are we actually in redistribution where a variety of assets can go lower? So those are my thoughts on a dozen plus assets today that are sitting at cycle lows or all-time lows, including Casper, either in accumulation where it's just a really deep spring, or we're actually already in redistribution. So I know the last time I did a video and tweeted my concerns with IPW not launching on Casper, a lot of people were very upset. They said I was fudding Casper and that I even marked the bottom for the Casper price chart, and I didn't want Casper to come to an all-time low alongside a dozen plus assets. I wanted Bitcoin to draw its major move by May, and we just haven't. We've been running sideways. Bitcoin dominance has gone up, alts have gone down. And the thing is about IPW, that was supposed to serve as the first large enterprise-grade application, and it's much more than just having transactions on the mainnet. With IP as the use case, it's supposed to serve as a proof of concept to bring more enterprise applications. Without that launching, that gives competitors an edge to get to market faster. It's just a big ripple effect, and then plus the other news we've had this past year, there's a lot of unknowns. I am holding my Casper, that doesn't change. I thought having a DCA at 3 cents was good, so I have some work to do. I'm not telling anybody what to buy or sell. And I know a lot of people at this point don't care about Casper or other assets sitting at an all-time low, and that's completely fine. I hold Casper, I'll keep covering the developments, and I know that if we get another alt season in the future with Bitcoin dominance crashing, or confirmation from Bitcoin drawing its first major move first, a variety of assets are going to retrace. Whether it's some of the newer kids on the block or L1s like Say or Sui, whether it's lower cap assets in the AI and gaming space, even OG Layer 1 networks. So some of them or all of them better retrace because even last cycle there were assets with little to no development activity or utility that just got the volume rotated into them and they did a multi-100% move. So those are the points we're waiting for with the market when it's just completely irrational volume floods, and it's really fun every 4-year cycle if you consider the 4-year cycles to be valid. And I assume that every single investor that's experienced a full bear market and a full bull run before is impatiently waiting for another one. Looking at the pi cycle top for Bitcoin, we have not had a golden cross. We can see we're even pointing down today. And then looking at Collins Bull Run Index, aggregating 9 different metrics, you can actually add different ones to this. We can see we're not in dark red like cycle tops. So me, right or wrong, I just don't believe that Bitcoin is anywhere near its cycle top, even if it takes a while. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Huge thank you to all that hit the like button. This is just a big rant on my personal beliefs and why I believe it. I encourage you to watch people that don't believe in crypto, discuss huge economic risks and factors, and just look at both the good and the bad. There's not a whole lot we can do in the market right now since it is very illiquid. The time to really pay attention to crypto is when we get confirmation from Bitcoin drawing its first major move, or seeing Bitcoin dominance crash and seeing that volume rotate into alts. Other than that, investors are DCAing into projects they believe in, trying to buy as low as possible, and I think some bottoms are definitely going to be caught. And the big deal about that is if we get another bull run and our DCA is brought down a lot, there's still plenty of potential long term if we get another cycle. So we'll see how long this phase lasts, where it's just boredom and boredom for months and months until something captures a bunch of excitement. So thanks for watching, guys, and I will catch you in the next video. We're going to run through a bunch of recent news. If you enjoyed this video, please consider hitting the like button and sharing your thoughts down below. As always, you can find all links, including resources for charting, trading bots, platforms, wallets, portfolio trackers, and exclusive discounts in my link tree at the top of the video description. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.